Have you ever walked away from someone, truly let go after giving them your time, your heart, your patience, and they didn't even flinch? No apology, no effort to stop you, no sign they ever really cared. It's one of the most painful experiences, and it leaves you wondering, was any of it even real? You start telling yourself maybe they just didn't value you, that maybe you were the only one who ever really tried. But deep down, something doesn't sit right. I'm Jim Rohn, and in this video, I want to show you a perspective most people never get to see. What actually causes avoidant people to regret losing you, and why that regret almost never shows up while you're still holding on. It doesn't hit them while you're chasing, explaining, hoping. It hits when you stop, when your energy shifts from needing them to choosing you, when you stop trying to be seen and start seeing yourself clearly. That's the moment the emotional current flips. And suddenly, the person who once felt in control starts to feel the void you used to fill. This isn't about playing games or getting revenge. It's about understanding the psychology behind avoidant behavior, and more importantly, reclaiming your peace. Because when you detach, not with bitterness, but with calm and clarity, you change the dynamic, you disrupt the pattern. And that's when regret creeps in, often quietly, often late, but deeply. So, if you've ever asked yourself, do they even miss me, or will they ever regret letting me go? I made this video for you. Make sure to subscribe, tap the notification bell, and leave a comment if you've ever felt stuck in that confusing space between heartbreak and healing. You're not alone. Let's talk about what really happens when you walk away and they finally feel it. Let's talk about something that seems ironic, but is completely true when it comes to avoidantly attached people. They say they want space. They claim they need freedom, independence, no pressure. And for a while, they really believe that. They pull away. They create emotional distance. They tell themselves, this is better. I need time to breathe. I feel lighter now. But here's where it gets interesting. That sense of relief, it doesn't last. See, as long as you're still emotionally available, checking in, lingering in their orbit, hoping they'll come back, they feel in control. They have space and your attention. But the second you truly step away, not in anger, not to play a game, but from a place of real acceptance and peace, it changes everything. Because now they're not getting distance on their terms, they're experiencing your absence, and that's a very different feeling. Let's take a real-life example. Maybe after weeks of hot and cold behavior, you decide to stop reaching out. You don't post to get their attention. You're not secretly hoping they watch your stories. You just quietly shift back to yourself. You get focused on your life again, your routines, your healing. From the outside, you've simply let go. But on their end, that silence gets loud, fast. What they thought they wanted, distance, now feels like a void. You're not available to soothe their fear anymore. You're not showing up the way you used to. And that's when they start to notice the impact of your absence. Not because you said anything, but because your presence is no longer something they can rely on. That's the twist. What was once their comfort zone becomes a source of discomfort. Not because you punished them, but because you finally chose your peace over their pattern. Here's the part that surprises a lot of people. It's not your tears, your begging, or your deep emotional texts that make an avoidant regret losing you. It's not the long messages you sent trying to get closure, or the arguments you had trying to make them understand how much they hurt you. The truth is, those reactions, while completely human, don't usually move an avoidant. In fact, they often make them retreat further. Why? Because to someone with avoidant tendencies, emotion can feel overwhelming. Pressure, no matter how gentle, can feel like a threat. But here's what does shake them: your calm absence, your peaceful detachment, the quiet, powerful shift when you stop chasing, stop explaining, and simply live your life without them, when you no longer need them to get it. That's when something inside them begins to shift. Let me give you a real-life example. Say you've stopped contacting them. No texts, no emotional check-ins. You're not trying to get closure, you're not angry, you're just done. You've accepted their limits, stopped trying to change them, and decided to focus on your own growth. Maybe you've joined a fitness class, started healing in therapy, or picked up a creative passion again. You're smiling more, you feel lighter, and most importantly, you're no longer emotionally orbiting them. From their point of view, this isn't what they expected. They were used to you reaching out. They assumed you'd still be there in some capacity, and now you're not. You've become still, clear, focused on yourself. And that is what creates regret. Not the fight you had 3 weeks ago, but the version of you they can no longer reach. Avoidants aren't moved by emotional storms. They're rattled by emotional stability, especially when that stability no longer includes them. Your peace becomes louder than any words you could have said. Your progress becomes the mirror they can't look away from. Not because you're rubbing it in, but because it reminds them of what they lost. Someone who offered real love, safety, and emotional presence, and who now offers it only to themselves. So if you're wondering whether they'll regret it, don't focus on trying to make them feel it. Focus on becoming someone who no longer needs them to. That's when they feel the loss most deeply, not because you punished them, but because you grew beyond needing their validation. And that's a feeling they can't ignore. Avoidants often operate from a quiet illusion, one they might not even be fully aware of. Deep down, they believe they can come and go as they please, that they can get close when it feels good, pull away when it feels overwhelming, and you'll still be there when they decide to circle back. It's not always out of selfishness, it's just the emotional blueprint they've learned. Control and distance are what keep them feeling safe. And as long as you stay in that loop, responding to every reach out, forgiving every retreat, they feel like they're managing just fine. But here's what they don't expect: for you to stop participating. When you stop showing up to that emotional tug of war, when you no longer react, reach out, or wait around, the structure they were relying on starts to crumble. Suddenly, they're not in control of the rhythm anymore. The push-pull dance breaks, and they're left standing in the silence they once thought they needed. For example, maybe they disappear after a few vulnerable days together. In the past, you might have sent a long message asking what went wrong, but now, you don't respond, you don't chase, you just keep going with your life. And that quiet resistance, your decision to not play the game, is what shakes them. They expected your reaction. Instead, they got your peace. That's when it hits. The person they thought they had emotional control over is no longer there. Not physically maybe, but emotionally, you've moved on. And without your engagement, their illusion of control collapses. That's the moment regret creeps in, not when you fought for them, but when you stopped. Here's something that really catches avoidance off guard: your growth. Not the kind where you pretend to be fine to make them jealous, but the real, quiet kind, where you start living well for you. When you stop trying to win them back, stop waiting for them to show up differently, and begin pouring your energy into your own healing and peace. That's when it hits them hardest. Avoidants are used to holding the emotional upper hand. They pull away, and people usually chase. But when you stop playing that role, when you stop needing them to feel whole, they feel the shift. And for the first time, they realize they didn't lose someone who needed them. They lost someone who chose them. That difference matters more than you think. Let me give you a real-life example. Say you were always the one holding space in the relationship, being patient with their distance, giving them the benefit of the doubt, waiting for them to open up, and then one day something clicks. You stop over-functioning. You start setting boundaries. You get back into the gym, reconnect with friends, maybe even start a new passion project. Your energy is no longer circling around them. It's finally circling back to you. And here's the thing, even if they don't say it, they notice. They might check your socials more, you might get a random "hey" message out of nowhere, but it's not really about catching up. It's them feeling the loss, feeling the absence of someone who once made them feel safe in ways they didn't even understand until it was gone. Because when you grow, when you shine in your own lane, when you heal without needing to prove anything, they feel it, and it makes them realize they didn't just lose a partner. They lost someone rare, someone steady, someone who loved them without conditions, and finally learned to give that same love to themselves. Here's the truth most avoidant exes never expect. It's not your silence that shakes them, it's your life moving forward without them. Not the kind of silence that comes from playing games or pretending to be over them when you're really still waiting. I'm talking about the kind of calm, grounded detachment that comes from healing, from choosing yourself, from no longer needing their attention to feel whole. Avoidants spend a lot of their emotional life avoiding confrontation, not just with others, but with themselves. They avoid feelings, vulnerability, anything that makes them feel exposed. So when someone starts growing, thriving, and moving forward without chasing them, without begging, without even trying to be noticed, that stings. Because for the first time, they're faced with something they've spent a lifetime avoiding, real emotional consequence. Think about it. You used to be the one always showing up. You held space. You forgave the distance. You gave them chance after chance, hoping they'd meet you halfway. And then one day, you just stopped. Not out of bitterness, not to get a reaction, but because you finally understood that you deserved more. And instead of trying to convince them of your worth, you started living like you knew it. You're not posting for attention anymore. You're not checking if they've watched your story. You're not leaving emotional breadcrumbs, hoping they'll follow. You're just living. Maybe you're traveling, deep in your healing, building something new, and you're doing it quietly, without needing to be seen. That's the part that hits hardest. Avoidants don't usually feel the regret when you're trying to hold on. They feel it when they realize you're no longer choosing them. When you were emotionally available, they believed they had time, that you'd always be there, waiting in the background. But when that shifts, when they see you no longer orbiting them, their internal story starts to break down. They realize too late that what they had wasn't just comfort or convenience. It was rare. You weren't just another person trying to get close. You were someone who got them, who stayed present through the highs and lows, who offered love without strings. But now no longer offers that at all. And that realization, that's the real blow to the avoidant ego. Not because you hurt them, but because you stopped needing them. Because your growth became undeniable, and the person they thought they could keep at arm's length became the one they no longer have access to. That's not revenge, that's healing. That's closure on your terms. As we wrap up this video, I want to remind you of something deeply important. The regret an avoidant feels doesn't come when you beg, plead, or chase. It comes when you stop needing to be chosen. When you choose yourself, quietly, consistently, without drama, that's when the shift happens. Throughout this video, we've unpacked what truly triggers that avoidant regret: your peaceful absence, your emotional detachment, your growth, and the life you build that no longer revolves around them. It's not about punishment, it's about healing. And when you step into that healing, you become the living reminder of what they lost. Not because you tried to prove it, but because you embodied it. So if you're in that space right now, rebuilding, letting go, learning to trust yourself again, know this: you're not behind. You're becoming. And the more you focus inward, the less their reaction matters, and the more your peace expands. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. If something in this video spoke to you, I'd love to hear your story. Drop a comment below and share what part resonated most. Your experience matters, and your voice might just help someone else feel seen. And if you want more insight, support, and grounded emotional clarity in your journey, make sure to subscribe, tap the notification bell, and stay connected. You're not alone, and you don't have to navigate healing in the dark. Until next time, keep choosing you, quietly, fully, without apology.